Get decked.
So Kevin asked another reasonable question. He says, what has made you win tournaments from the deck that you built? You know what? Between me and you, I've top cutted plenty. Only won a handful of tournaments. Usually as I goof up something, shoot myself in the foot. As far as that goes, a combination of two things. Combination of experience. You're not going to see too many people who haven't played the game for a long time make it to top cut and win a tournament. Not most of the time. The other thing I'll say about that one...
Knowing your deck.
Yeah, we were saying is if you know your deck well enough. Now, you're going to say, wait, I know all the cards in my deck. What do you mean knowing my deck?
No, knowing how they mesh together, knowing how combos go off, knowing how many of a card that you have in your deck. Those are things I've really learned, especially from playing Orange. If I know how many of a certain drill I have in my deck, I know which drill I can rejuvenate with Add Up Mastery, or I know which one I can go search out with this effect. Or it's one of those things that it's important to know the numbers of things. It's like, I need this clutch card. How many of them do I have in my deck? Okay. How many cards do I have left? Okay. What are the odds of me getting that card? Okay.
So this is what we're saying is until you have that experience, that reflex, almost like they say muscle memory of your deck, you're that accustomed to it, you're going to make choices that are not going to reflect what's coming out of your deck. You're going to be a little off with your decisions. You're going to be frustrated because you said, I needed my deck to do this and I didn't do it. And you're like, well, were you counting your discard pile, your banish zone, just to make sure you know what you have left? And were you looking? So what we're getting at is if you don't know your deck that well, if it's not a well-used deck, well-fought deck,
or if you just changed something, recently. Like I just upped one of my drills up to 3 instead of 2. And I still misplay because I forget that I have that third one in there.
And there you go. So nothing beats experience. The last one is a strange one. For winning a tournament, surprise.
Yep.
Time after time, if people... Okay, give me an example.
If people's never seen what your deck can do or what you're doing, they don't know how to go against it.
Exactly. They may not realize the theme or the overall goal of your deck fast enough to be able to counteract it.
Yep.
I'll give you an example. Piccolo won the New York World Regional in September of, I want to say, 2015. When that happened, Piccolo suddenly came to the forefront of all this. It was, what do they have, 19 Piccolos enter that competition?
Something like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was all Piccolo all the time.
And then when the new Piccolo came out in Vengeance, that was all that was at Texas too.
What we're getting at is at the moment you start to see a deck explode, you'll see the counter measures being taken. People tooling their decks.
And you'll also see counters for other decks go away, and you'll also see things like you'll see people not playing the decks as well, and they'll get frustrated with it too. So those are the times where you're like, okay, I want to see how this works against this deck. Those are the times that you play test towards those decks because they're very popular, they're in the meta right now, and to be honest, some of these people don't know really how to play them.
This is very true. Like we said, nothing trumps experience. I'll give you a straight example of when this all happened exactly when, and you're going to go ahead and say, oh, I remember, James. It was right after good old Evolution. Yep. I want to say the 4th set got released. Mm-hmm. I discovered Leaping Kick.
Yep.
And we all remember where this went.
Yep.
For like the next 4 months, I was the Leaping Kick machine. I came to the very first tournament with my Leaping Kick Evolution Piccolo MP deck, and I hit level 4 in 2-3 turns tops, and was just raining pain down from the top there. And it was my enemies had no particular recourse. There were no cards that they thought of because, they had at their disposal to deal with level hoppers. Mm-hmm. People who advance a level, not through anger, but through advancing card effects.
Yep.
So obviously the game has rounded itself back out, giving the ability to manage it. But at the time, there was simply nothing that could counter it. I kept it secret for months.
Well, some of us knew, but we're not going to put it. We're not. Here's the other thing, and here's the smart thing. You also learn not to counter just one specific deck, even if that's like the worst deck matchup that you have, because that one card could mean the difference between a victory and a defeat in a different area. Like because. You could have something that could de-level a level hopper, but if you're playing against a Krillin that just sits at level 1, what good does that card do you? You don't cater to one specific deck.
So that's very important. So a combination of experience and surprise.
So another example of surprise. Remember when I took Brawly, my orange Brawly deck to regionals?
I do.
Nobody knew what the hell to do against it because all of a sudden I'm at level 1 Brawly. I'm shooting off my level 1 ability attack for 7 stages. And then I got all these drills out and I'm dealing like 12 stages on average. And, you know, they were just like, and I kind of getting a little anger, and I'm like sweating it. I'm gonna get to level 2. I don't really want to get to level 2, and then they're just like, oh no, he's got a level. Lower him down in anger, and I'm just like, oh, thank you, because they never realized that that's how you counter my deck is you make me level, and I lose all those drills, and then I have to work to get them back. You know?
Oh yes. What we're getting at is that was a surprise, and it threw them off their game, and they really didn't have a specific strategy.
I beat a level 3 Brawly Saiyan deck with a level 1 Brawly just because I could out-pressure him stage-wise.
He did the impossible. He out-fought Broly. Nobody out-stage damages Broly. Nobody.
With Broly.
Broly's strongest there is.
Broly stronger than Broly. Broly 3 not as strong as Broly 1. What the hell? But things like that, you learn how to catch them off guard. Like I ran blinding energy attacks in Krillin. There were times where I play a drill and I had 2 cards in my hand. Go into combat. What? Why are you going to combat? Blinding energy attack. I just made you draw 3 cards and now I'm making you discard down to 1.
Oh yes, these are the kind of stuff again that comes out of experience, where you know you can whittle them down. I've seen entire decks built around that.
Well, I did Red ever tell you the time that I did that to him, where he was playing Tien and he drew like all of Tien's cards and all of the God Hand, and I'm just like, blinding energy attack?
And of course,
and it's just like,
he don't carry any blocks. You know he doesn't.
Well, it's not even just the blocks. It's having to ditch that hand after getting it. You know, he had like 2 tri-beams, and it was just a disgusting hand that would have kicked my ass. But the fact that I ended combat right then and there, just
like we said. Speaking of that sort of thing, I'll give you an example of when experience is going to be your best teacher. As anyone who plays the game even for a little while knows, Visiting the Past is an ultra powerful card because the effect takes place out of combat. It doesn't require an action, it doesn't consume one. Especially late game, you'll see a big discard pile and think they literally have their whole deck at their disposal to pull back out before they even draw their 3. This is deceptively strong. It's not as strong as it appears. It turns out, you have a guaranteed card in their hand, you already know what they're holding.
Yep, and you can play around it.
Exactly.
Like, I'll play with like one card in my hand, and the rest, one attack in my hand, the rest blocks, and I know they're going to grab that time, and I know that they're going to throw that time right away, because the unexperienced person always will get rid of time right off the bat. You'll see other people, I do this all the time, and it just drives people crazy, because I'll have a time, I'll grab a time, I'll keep that time in my hand for about 3 or 4 turns before I even play it, and they're just like, I thought you would play that, and I'm just like, no.
It turns out you can bluff an opponent. If you think that doesn't work in Dragon Ball, yes it does. Oh, does it ever.
Yeah.
You could threaten them.